Well, good morning, everyone. So today is our first video. It's your first video for Algebra 2. And so you have your note packets that we talked about. Now you're going to notice at the top of the note packets, there's four vocabulary terms: variable, numerical expression, algebraic expression, and constants. What I'd like you to do is I'd like you to research on the web. I gave you the definition. I'd like you, where it says meaning, I'd like you to draw or write what those definitions actually mean. You can either research it on the web or you can use what you already know. All right, but we're going to start by talking about patterns with algebra. Okay, so sometimes we can express patterns using what we know about algebra. So for example, if we look at the first example, it says below are a series of toothpicks, and forgive my picture, but so we've got these toothpicks. They've been lined up to form a figure. If the pattern continues, how many toothpicks will be in the 20th figure? Wait, what? Come on, Coach Fred. Do you really want us to draw all these figures out? No, I don't. And this is where algebra can help. So the way I like to do this, number one, is I want us to think of, this is figure one. Would everybody agree that that's figure one? That's figure two. And that is figure three. Okay, so I'm going to count up how many I have in each one. So figure one, I have 4 toothpicks. Figure two, I have 8 toothpicks. And figure three, I've got 12 toothpicks. All right, so what you might be seeing is that, what you might be seeing is that it seems to be going up by 4 every single time. All right, so we can actually come up with an expression that would help us. So if it's going up by 4 each time, if figure 1 had 4 and figure 2 had 8 and figure 3 had 12, I actually like to think of the figures as like my unknown, and with patterns I tend to use n. So if n is 1, then if I multiply 4 times n, so 4 times 1, I'll get 4. So I'm going to test that and see if that expression actually works for this. If I multiply 4 times 2, I let 2 be n, then I get 8. Figure 3, I let 3 be n, then I get 12. And so this formula, or this expression, works to show me this pattern. So if I wanted to find out how many are in the 20th figure, I'm going to let n be 20. And then it would be 4 times 20, which is 80. Okay, now we're going to do more of these in class, so don't panic if that didn't make too much sense. You know, it made only a little bit of sense. All right, we're going to look at it another way. Let's look at if I have a graph. What if I already give you the pattern but a different format, such as a table or a graph? All right, so this one's a little bit more detailed. You want to set up an aquarium, and you need to determine what size tank to buy. The graph shows tank sizes using a ruler that relates the capacity of the tank to the combined levels of the fish it can hold. If you want 5 2-inch platies, 4 1-inch guppies, and a 3-inch load. So let's figure out how many inches we want, because if you look at this graph, it says that the combined length of fish is on my x-axis, and the capacity in gallons is on my y-axis. All right, and it appears that the graph that they've given us is a line. All right, so what should you be doing now? You should be thinking, okay, it's a line, so that means that it's in the form, hopefully, y equals mx plus b, because that's probably the linear equation that you remember. And so I'm going to think about that. I'm just going to think about what I already know. Well, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add up the inches that I need. So I've got 5 2-inch, which is 10 inches. I've got 4 1-inch, which is 4 inches, and I've got 1 3-inch loach, so that's 3 inches. So I have 17 inches of fish that I want to deal with, okay? So how do you make a table? Well, the way I make a table is I first just make a table of values like you learned to do in Algebra 1. I'm going to look at the values that they gave me, so I'm going to do 2, 4, 6, 8, and 10. All right, so 2 inches is going to give me 4 gallons. 4 inches is going to give me 6 gallons. 6 inches is going to give me 8 gallons, and 8 inches is going to give me 10 gallons. And then 10 inches will give me, looks like 12 gallons. Okay, so we have our chart, and so then what I do is I calculate the differences between the numbers. So meaning 4 minus 2 gives me 2. Let me change colors actually. And 4 and 6, 2. 8 minus 6 is 2. And 10 minus 8 is 2. And you might remember that, and here on this side, 6 minus 4 is 2. 8 minus 6 is 2. And 10 minus 8 is 2. And 12 minus 10 is 2. So this is going up basically 2 over 2. If you remember slope, you would have done the y, subtract the y's over subtracting the x's. So you would have done 6 minus 4 all over 4 minus 2, which would have given me 2 over 2, which that means our slope, the slope of this line is 1. So what I'm trying to do is actually put this into y equals mx plus b form. So I have my slope, and now I just need a point. Well, the point that we love is that y-intercept. And if you look at this graph, I actually have the y-intercept right here on the graph. It's 2. So now I can plug that right into y equals mx plus b. So our slope is 1, so 1x, I'm just going to put x, plus 2. So what's that saying? Well, that's saying that this equation is actually representing the data, or this almost the sequence of numbers. And so I can use it to find out what kind of gallon tank I would need, okay? All right, so I'm going to let x be 17 because that's the combined length of my fish. So 17 plus 2 gives me 19. So y equals 19. All right, so gallon tanks come in 15, 20, or 25. So the smallest one I would buy would be a 20-gallon tank. Make sense? And again, we will be going over the ones with the graphs, and we'll be going over y equals mx plus b in class tomorrow when we practice. All right, one more I want to look at. I want you to add this to the bottom of your notes, so it's not there at the bottom of that page. I want to just look at the sequence of numbers. I just give it to you like this: 3, 8, 13, and 18. So there's many ways to do this. I could ask you, and there would be a dot, dot, dot. I could ask you for the next term. So you kind of look and you see, okay, 3 to 8, you're going up 5. 8 to 13, you're going up 5. 13 to 18, you're going up 5. So yeah, you could say the next one would be you add 5, which would give me, what, 23? But what if I asked you for the 100th term in the sequence? Well, then you'd need to figure out an expression that represents it. Sometimes when I ask you for a term, I will ask you for the nth term. If I ask you for the nth term, all I'm asking you is for an expression or formula that represents this sequence. That's all that means, so don't let that panic you. All right, so the way I do it is the first thing that I like to do is I like to make a little chart. And let me erase this for a second. I'm going to erase those. And I'm going to let the x's be n, really. Instead of x, we're going to use n. I'm going to say that this is the first term, this is the second term, this is the third term, and this is the fourth term. All right, so then I'm going to let 1, 2, 3, 4, those are my like x's, and 3, 8, 13, 18, and those are my y's, so x and y. And I'm going to use that same concept that I did on the last one. I'm going to look at the differences here. It's 1 all the way up. And here the difference is 5, which we already calculated. Okay, since these numbers are all the same and these numbers are all the same, that tells me that's my slope. So 5 over 1 is my slope. And it's linear. Because these are all the same, that tells me it's a linear equation. So then you have to think, y equals mx plus b. All right, so my slope is 5, so 5x. But I need my y-intercept. Well, the easiest way to do this is to go back one. It's because I was given one. If I go backwards 1 to 0, I'd have to go backwards 5 this way. So subtract 5, and I would be at -2. And so my equation would be y equals 5x minus 2. All right, so if I want the 100th term, that means n or x is 100. So I'm going to do 5 times 100 minus 2, and that's going to give me 500 minus 2, which is 498. 498 would be the 100th term of the sequence. Okay, so if you need to go back and rewind, you can. If you need to pause and think about it, you can. And then tomorrow, I'll go over the video quickly, and then we will practice this. And when we practice it, I think you're going to feel so much more comfortable with everything, okay? All right, see you tomorrow.